All right, welcome back to Relearn Japanese, and you are here because you forgot your Japanese and need to learn it again. So today we have conclusions and hypotheses. So this is like saying assuming that, blah, 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 or this means that, blah, blah, blah. So how to make a hypothesis and conclusion in Japanese can be easily done with two types of grammar points. You have wake and tosuru. So first one is wake, which is comes from the word reason, like iiwake comes from the word reason. So there's no reason for me, or there's no reason for me, or there is a reason, or there's no way that I could, or there is, it is obvious that I would, blah, 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 blah. So wake is used to like draw conclusions given the circumstances. So it's not like explaining something that might not be obvious. It's like, oh, why didn't you come? Oh, sorry, I had, there was traffic, right? And then wake would be used as the rebuttal, where it's like, okay, there was traffic. Oh, so that's why you're late. Okureru wake da. Like, that's why you're late, because of considering the circumstances that now you have told me that you are late because of traffic. I can now make the conclusion that that is why you're late, as opposed to the explanatory no. So like, jutai arunda, right? Jutai arundatta no. Like, there was traffic. You didn't know that before, so I'm explaining it to you now because it's not obvious. Then the rebuttal would be like, okay, now that the circumstances have become obvious and I can make a conclusion based on the circumstance that you were late because of traffic, there is a reason for you to be late. It's kind of this, you need to have context in order for you to make a conclusion, right? Whereas explanatory no is more about, you're explaining it to someone for the first time, right? And you're allowed then to come with their own conclusions after, right? A cool way to remember this is that like this little radical here says say. So you can't make an assumption until someone says what they wanted to say, right? That's one cool way you can remember that. So for example, いくらでも日本語を勉強してもうまくならないな。No matter how much I study Japanese, I can't seem to get better. つまり語学には能力がないというわけか。So in other words, that means you just don't have a knack for languages, right? So if you can see here, he can't study no matter how much he studies, blah, blah, blah. So because he's given him the context of no matter how much he studies, he just can't grasp it, right? We are able to draw a conclusion from this context here and say that, okay, that's the reason for your result. So, 能力がないというわけか. It just means that you don't have a knack for, where means is equal to this wake here. We could also use it as a negative. So we have 英語が喋れるわけがない. There's no way or reason, given the circumstances that I haven't studied or eaten ass or whatever the fuck I'm going to do, to be able to speak English, right? There's just no way. There's no way, given the circumstances. So that's why you would say wake ga nai. Next one here, some more context. お前、俺のアイスを盗んだかい? Did you steal my ice cream? There's no way I would ever do that, considering me, my personality, and my past, and your relationship with me, that I would do that. は? 盗むわけないだろ? Right? So that you would never do that. I would never do that, right? How about this one? Do you understand math? 数学ってわかる? わかるわけないよ. There's no way I would understand that, because you know me, you know that my situation, you know that I don't take math class, you know that I'm an idiot. So there's no way I'd understand that. So the only way you could say wake is because there is an established kind of relationship. There's an established context already made before you can actually say this, right? If you want to say wakaranai nda, like, I don't know. Like, why don't you know this? Datte wakaranai nda. Like, I don't know. This is the first time I'm telling you, though, and there's no way you would have known that. But now, because you know me and we're friends, blah, 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 wakaru wake nai. The reason for me to understand, there is none of that. The reason that I would understand something is not existent. That's where wakaru wake nai. So that's basically where that train of thought thinks of, right? So here's some more uses of wake. So can be used to show something is easily done. So this is where we get a little bit more abstract, and it's okay for us to make super long sentences to understand this for ourselves rather than just trying to like shove it into your head. So we have can be used to something easily done. ここの試験に合格するのはわけない. it's easy to pass tests here. Now, if you read that, you just say, okay, I'll just remember that. But you have to understand what it actually means. So it's easy to pass tests here because there's no reason to even consider passing a test as a thing. It's just like a given. Say, 合格するのは、試験に合格するのは. The whole idea of you passing a test implies that there's failing, right? Implies that there is a chance that you might not even pass, right? Because you passed the test because you didn't fail. But if you say that there is no reason to even consider that something can be passed, means that it's so easy that that doesn't even exist. Everybody just passes. You see where it comes from? It's kind of this long-winded thing, but you can understand where waki is starting to come from, right? You could also do it as a negative. 学校に行かないわけにはいかない. Yeah. Okay, you gotta split this up. Look, 学校に行かない. Okay, split that up. So I'm not going to school. Okay, wake, right? Wake means the reason, any kind of reason that I can think of not going to school. Okay, niwa, so destination particle. So this next verb is going to be directly quoted into this sentence here. So 学校に行かないわけには. Okay, so this whole thing, 行かない. And this 行かない is the conceptual version. So not like actually going, but look, I cannot not go to school. Now it's saying this is confusing as fuck. So we're not going to go with this. We're going to say not going to school reason cannot be or happen. Not going to eat ice cream cannot be or happen. Not going to eat dinner with your family cannot be or happen. If you translate it like this, in this more of this kind of literal translation, it makes more sense than the actual tsuyaku. So I cannot not go to school. Because double negatives are confusing in English, right? So not going to school reason cannot be or happen, right? So that's so much easier to understand for me anyway, when you kind of think about it from a kind of linguistics. I'm not a linguist or anything like that. A kind of more conceptual kind of way. やめるわけにはいかない. This one makes more sense. So a reason for giving up cannot happen. Therefore, I can't give up. Therefore, there's no way or reason to give up. See how you can split it up this way? If you think about it more this way, it's much easier to understand than looking at like double negatives and shit. That's just so confusing. So get rid of that. So last one here is making a hypothesis with tosuru. So tosuru is a combination of a direct quote particle. Remember to, and then suru is to do, right? So you're doing whatever to is encompassing. So you have this whole fucking sentence, and then to is like the direct particle, and then you do it with suru. So an entire phrase is becoming an object, basically, or a clause that you will quote in your head as a thought, as a hypothesis, right? And then you'll do that hypothesis. So for example, 明日に行くとする. Assuming we go tomorrow. Tomorrow we will go. 明日に行く. Let's do that conceptually. 明日に行くと Yeah, boy! する. Okay? So, 今から行くとしたら, you turn it into a conditional. 今から行くと, alright? If we go now, としたら, if we go now, 10時に着くと思う. We'll arrive at 10. If we assume that we leave right now, we'll get there at 10. Assuming we leave now, we'll get there at 10. Go right now. If we do that, we will arrive at 10, I think. So the more literal you get with it, the more sense it starts to make. And the more you start to begin to think about how Japanese people actually are thinking when they are saying their phrases, right? Instead of just trying to rote memory this shit. So you remember this grammar? Like, 何々として, right? So, 日本人としても、日本語は難しい. Okay, so 日本語, this should be 日本語は難しい. So even as a Japanese person, Japanese is hard. Assuming you are a Japanese person, Japanese is hard. Japanese person, let's assume that you are that, including that you are a Japanese person, Japanese is hard. So, again, make it longer, do however long you need to understand it, and avoid kind of like the textbook explanations of just one set piece of grammar, right? Really, really just try to understand it in your way and just split it up into a weird-ass sentence if you need to, and that's going to help you understand the more complicated grammars in Japanese. But anyway, guys, that's all we got for today. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, the quick quiz is available for you to download and try on your own, as well as other stuff on the Patreon, starting at $1 a month. Support your boy to help me continue making this content. Hopefully, we can go full-time with it one day. And then once Relearn Japanese is done, we're going to be starting our beginner course. So it's kind of going to be like Relearn Japanese, but way more in-depth and way more stuff for you guys to enjoy. And for all your patrons that have been supporting the channel, you'll have something nice at the $10 tier, which it'll be on there because it's gonna be a lot of work. But anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. See you next time.